Welcome, Jarkko, to Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Brymir, this new album, Voices in the Sky, and more things related to the metal world. Starting, how have you been during these crazy times? First, we started a pandemic 2 years ago. Now you are living a war in Europe. So many things happen in nowadays, very crazy world. Who knows what happens next couple of years? The machine takes the power, the alien invasion, zombie apocalypse.
Seems like the sky is the limit on how much the world is going crazy. Everything is like going topsy-turvy. But yeah, how have we been with everything going on? Well, of course, things have, sucked with the pandemic. And now, for a whole different reason, for the war in Ukraine, it's horrible to watch and know that that's happening in Europe, and it affects a whole bunch of our good friends and stuff like that. So of course these things happening have really sucked, and it was a weird thing making a new album in the midst of all of this. Well, the pandemic thing was with Wings of Fire. We released our last album in 2019 before all of this craziness with the pandemic started. So in that sense, we got some things going, but then things started slowing down, and then 2020 was almost completely dead, and then 2021 was also very, very quiet. So it was a sort of a weird place to write and record an album. We thought that it might have been something a bit more we would have gotten our creative juices flowing since we couldn't do anything. But it sort of started to pacify us, that we just there's no action, there's no inspiration, there's no things, and we couldn't see each other face to face and stuff like that. So everything sort of started grinding down to this halt. But all things considered, we did very much better than a whole lot of other bands. We didn't have these huge tours that got canceled, or we didn't have huge financial losses, because things got very, very hard for a lot of people. So in that sense, we were lucky.
Yeah. So into this matter, can we say that these Voices in the Sky was composed and recording during this pandemic?
Yeah, you can basically say that. We thought that it would have been very fast, but it's like I said, it sort of became this slow process, because we didn't have this speedy back and forth between for instance, Victor and Joona are really good, this pair that writes most of the songs, and they couldn't see face to face, and they had to communicate with as we are doing right now. So that's not so, you don't get into that sort of creative mind space that easily if you do that. But yeah, it was made and composed during these very special times. Victor would probably be able to tell a lot more about the technical aspects of things, but I think all in all, well, depending on, of course, how you think, but I think we did pretty well with the end result, at the very least, even if it did take quite a long time to get done, and was a very strange way to do an album.
Okay. So one of the biggest aspects of this new Voices in the Sky is compared to the Brave to the Sun, Slayer of Gods, or Winds on Fire, is that you are releasing this new album by Napalm Records. So one biggest step for the band, because you start with Spinefarm Records, then Ranka Kustanun Records, and Outline Music Records at that time. So how was first? Why the band always changed the labels? Because since the first to now, you are changing 4 labels in 4 albums. And the second part of the question: how has you been now? You experience one of the biggest labels around the world, like it's Napalm Records.
Well, I'll answer the latter part of the question, how we've been feeling with Napalm. It's been very nice, very good. It's seems like doors are opening in a whole other way than they have previously. So it's of course very early in our cooperation, but things have been very, very kind to us this far. So we have no complaints on that regard. It's a big label and a big step forward for us, and we're very excited of what it'll bring in the future. And then the first part of the question is like, why are we skipping labels all the time? It's sort of a funny thing that back when we got the Spinefarm Records deal, we were sort of a very young band. We played like, you can hear it in the album that it's got completely almost a different genre of music that we're playing. It's very folky, long, winding songs with just a very young band, like sort of looking for our own sound. And basically, I think as well, Spinefarm isn't a small label by any means. They had like, Nightwish and Bodum and stuff like that. But I think the thing was that we were sort of starting to write the second album, and then Spinefarm didn't want to continue with us. So we were just left without a label for a while. And we just started making music on our own. And then we were like, okay, who will pick this up? And it was Riku Pääkkönen from Ranka Kustannus who came for us in the second album, and it was very lucky break for us, and we got to make more music, make more albums, and things are sort of like gradually growing and growing and growing. So, and the interesting thing, like the last album, Wings of Fire, is said that it's out with Out of Line Records, but it's actually also with Ranka Kustannus, and it was licensed to Out of Line Records. So we've had like our major partners have been Spinefarm Records, Ranka Kustannus, and now Napalm Records. And now we just had the chance with new management and everything like that, we could like renegotiate a new record deal. We got some offers for the new album, and Napalm's offer was basically they had the best things to offer, and we took that, and we've been very happy with that now. So we've been in a sort of lucky position that things have been moving forward and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. No complaints.
Okay. So hearing about this album, and we did the review in our website. So in Metallica, we did the review, and we put almost a perfect score, like 9.5. This is a great success. Well, this is almost 10, almost 10, so almost perfect score. So, but one question that I've been reading, what I've been seeing, is that a lot of reviewers, a lot of people, well, for us, your music is more like melodic metal, with a lot of textures into there. But curiously, for the I don't know, for many fans, thinks that you are playing something like symphonic, melodic, pagan, extreme metal band. So very, very complicated way to describe your music. So into this matter, so how do you define the style or label that Brymir plays in each album, or perhaps in the last one?
How would I define the sound? Well, there is the core of like Finnish melodic death metal. You can always hear that in there. There are like these more melodic and symphonic, folky or symphonic flourishes, big choirs. Well, we have like these our inspirations in the early days were, of course, like bands like Winter Sun, who also do very complex stuff with big choirs and lots of different elements. So in that sense, it's there. And we also, like with this album, I think when compared to the previous album, I think the sound is much more, you can hear it that it's sort of more guitar oriented. You can hear that the guitars sound bigger, and they're playing a much more this like more of a, you could say at times, a power metal kind of feel to it, like with big chunkiness to the sound of it. And that's also due to the fact that Victor, our main composer, started like really putting his, like, he used to write music so that he started with a keyboard melody and then figured out with Joona, our guitarist, on how to put that into a guitar framework. Now he started with the guitars and then stuff started adding there. So in that sense, I think that when comparing it to our previous album, this I think is much more, you can hear that it's more pure heavy metal, you could say. Start with the guitars, end with the guitars, and then everything else is like piled on top of it, while it used to be so that it might have come from anywhere, the main melody or the main idea, but now we're sort of more in the guitar mode.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. One detail that I saw in talking about this matter is about the pagan metal. So I don't know why the people is still calling this pagan, because for me the pagan is not a style. It's more like a lyric subject than a style music, than a
Yeah.
musical style. So for you, this is thing is related with the music completely into your way of thinking of the band, perhaps the ideology of the band, things like the gods, the mythology, this kind of stuff.
Um, well, you can definitely say that we're not pagans in
Yeah.
the strictest sense, the religious sense of the word. It's not this band is definitely not leaning onto that sort of framework. It's more of this using these symbolisms that are here in the north, like from Finnish paganism or Norse mythology, and we use those as like symbols in sort of this literary sense. You know, like how for instance in Victorian England, they use Greek mythology to symbolize things that are happening at the moment. It's like using this like framework and these stories to tell, sort of to put our own emotions and our own ideas into things. So in that sense, you can say that there are like pagan elements to it, like there's mythological elements, but there's sort of more used in that symbolic kind of way, not to directly tell mythological stories, and then that's that. It's always sort of more about something else.
Mm. Okay, okay. So relating to this one again, so what do you think about now? I think in whole Europe now the bands are talking in their language, writing lyrics in their language, in Finnish, Swedish, Polish, etc., etc. So what do you think about this aspect? Perhaps Europe is now living like a nationalism trend to do the things like in our language and our methods, etc., etc.
Well, for instance, I like the fact that people are daring to use their native languages more, because that's always more richness of culture. More of all languages have their own this distinctive sound and soul that is always worthwhile to be heard and spread. And it's always sort of, we're very much, for instance, I like Moon Sorrow is like basically my favorite band, and they sing in Finnish. So in that sense, it's always a good thing, I think, that people are daring to use that. For us, it's always, for some reason, we just like the way the English feels in our mouths when we like do this lyric stuff, and the stories just come in that language just more naturally. We've had like Finnish segments in songs. For instance, in the song Ragnarok, there is a Finnish song segment there. But then about the whole nationalism thing, I sort of don't like to think that the metal thing and the languages in metal diversifying, and then there's this sort of the more nationalistic elements that are popping up more in Europe every once in a while. I really don't like to think that those things are linked, because there's always these like more toxic elements to
Yeah.
the political side of things.
Mhm.
So in that sense, I hope that they're not too much linked, but I like to think that just the fact that there is more songs in Polish, in Estonian, in Latvian, in uh, Gaelic, in Spanish, it's always like a richness.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So returning to these new voices in the sky. So let's go to a harder question. We are living now in a crazy. Well, we are living in the digital era with one, two, three songs at the digital platform. Especially this new generation prefers to hear the music with one, two, three, or maximum four songs from an album, whatever album they like. So into this matter and relating to this, for you, which song of from these voices in the sky whole or gather all concept, all essence from this new album?
If you have to pick just one, I think we started well with Voices in the Sky. That's a very good single, because it's a title track, of course. And I think there is the most of like what's coming out. There's gonna be faster songs. There's gonna be more some songs have more blast beats, some songs have more power metal feel, some are more slow and epic. So, but if I have to choose one, I would go with the title track. That would like sum up the album. That's like where you can definitely get the like, okay, this is what this album is about, and it's a good title track and it's a good opener because it sort of sets the mood for the whole thing. It of course varies, and the mood carries you into different places throughout the album, but that's like you could say the calling card could be that song.
Okay. So compared to this, which are the biggest strange that this Voices in the Sky has compared your previous work? Breathe the Fire of the Sun, Slate of the Gods, and Winds of Fire.
Well, what is the biggest changes on this album? Or
No, strengths.
Strengths. Okay. Yeah. Well, as things have gone further and further, I think our songwriting and our performance in general has gotten tighter and tighter and tighter. There's more. I think, well, always I'd like to say that the melodies are better, the songs are structured better, and then there's like there's more oomph to the whole thing. There's more catchiness, everything bigger, better, stronger with every album. So I think you can hear the development. But for this album, like I said previously, I think it would be that it sounds more like a proper like heavy metal album. There's like the emphasis is on the sort of right things in the production, that the guitars really do crush it, and sort of it's more concise in that sense, that the sound is like really strong and it's like more metal.
Okay. So as you said that the melodic death metal elements from Finnish is in your music now, especially in this new album and the previous ones. So relating to this, why usually a band from Finland plays like with these feelings, melancholic, melodic, this kind of stuff? Always, mostly bands there playing like this, and sometimes some bands plays raw, like the black metal, like Bearhead at the beginning, so this kind of stuff. But usually now the music from Finland are more melodic, melancholic, and has a lot of gray areas there. Perhaps this has something have to do with the the society there, because more the people there more sadness, who knows? Or perhaps the people there has with the weather, no, the weather a lot is no sun all day, because very cold all days, this kind of stuff. Are these kind of stuff are influenced to all methods to create new music?
Well, Finland is there are the most metal bands per capita, and we want to think that it's like this dark and brooding, and the whole long winter nights and everything that is there in our cultural sort of background radiation, that causes a good fertile ground for metal bands to come. But when I consider that how many bands and how active the scene is, I wouldn't call it that it's never one note, because for instance in the Finnish scene there is much more like there is this like resurgence of these like glam metal bands at the moment. There's all kinds of stuff. It's just the ones that sort of get picked up on, you could say, internationally, are these more sort of gloomy and doomy bands that are more sound sort of typically Finnish. And for those bands, for bands like us, I know for a fact that there is this the sort of musical soundscape in our folk music and in our classical compositions like Sean Sibelius. There is this, you can listen to those things and hear the things that are also present in our sort of more melodic death metal or doom metal, like those melodies and those harmonies. So there is that sort of foundation there for this kind of music. But I wouldn't say that Finland in itself is only producing this stuff. There's like, because most metal bands per capita, there's a lot of bands and a lot of them are really good, and it's not like, not even most of them definitely are not playing the style, for instance, the style of music that we are playing. So it's like a very diverse genre that supports one another. I think that's the main thing with Finland. It's like it's a fertile ground from metal of all kinds, and we're like looking out for each other, and we're like a brotherhood here. Everyone has each other's backs, and we're like rooting for each other to succeed.
Okay. So Well, as I said, changing completely the subject. As I said in the first question, we will talk about other matters, and we're relating with the one of the questions that I asked you about the people listen with 1, 2, and 3 songs. The digital with the digital platforms, the new music are coming. So into this matter, what do you think how do you what is your thoughts about the digital era? Is good or is bad for the music now? And relating to this, why the albums doesn't have the same impact compared to the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. As I said, this new generation talking about 15 or 20 years old, they like to do the playlists with 1, 2 songs from the band or from complete set list from Finland and scene, just with 1 or 2, or 10 songs from the Finland and scene. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, the digital thing is, it's a good thing in the sense that more music is out there and more music is out there for more people to hear. You could go into the talk about how positive things are, like algorithms, that what people can actually listen to. Those are always issues that you have to take into consideration. But I like to think that the idea of the digital era is a very nice one, because it gives the possibility that there is more music out there for more people, so it's easier to access and there's more of it. Then thinking about the whole album thing, like why albums don't have that much of an impact, is of course that it's a faster world. We have this like a couple of minutes time of getting into a song or doing that, and it used to be so that the culture was completely different, that you would just like sit down with a record and like play it over and analyze it with friends. But nowadays we're always thinking like, okay, music has to be a background thing for something else, and things like we as a society don't know how to sort of calm down anymore and just like sit down and listen to just records through and through in that sense, or at least that's sort of more becoming a more of a rare thing. But I like the potential of the digital world, but let's see where it's going, because I know that people do like albums still, and we as musicians, we like to write albums and think about albums, how they make stories. So I don't think it's quite dead yet, the whole concept, but we'll see where it's going.
Okay. So, then, relating to the previous questions about talking the nationalism, these aspects, talking about what do you think the metal always relating to the politics, to the society, this ideology? Because as you can see, in a lot of bands are talking about their thoughts about the culture, mythology. Other bands talks about racism. Other bands talks about so there's a lot. Why the music always related his personal life into the music and tries to put like this something disagree with the old society compared to perhaps to the mainstream stuff with the Rihanna, Shakira, this kind of stuff are talking just the happy people there. But here in metal, always used to talk about more complicated subjects, and in some way that very define their music or their way of thought.
I think metal has this it has more freedom. It's sort of because it's underground, it's not mainstream, and it's energetic, and you could even say that it's often like very angry music. So then you have this like freedom to do big issues and sing from your heart. You don't have to start calculating, okay, if I say this, then it will make like 2 million people upset. So I can't say this, I have to say that to sell more albums. So in that sense, I think metal is more of a genuine, it's more of a real, honest genre, which gives people the freedom to like do what they want. It has that sort of a more punk feel, that you can say what you want, but you can also, if you want, you can not say. There are very happy metal bands, there are very party metal bands, and that's fine too. But there is this idea that it's freedom to do what you want and freedom to say what you want. And that oftentimes means that people are passionate and tell their truth. They speak their opinions very loudly. And that's okay. That's very fine in metal.
Okay. And relating to this, Well, as you can see, a new documentary videos and a lot of opinions. When a music plays metal, do you think it's necessary to be a cuckoo or crazy person to do metal? Because as you said, something in some words, like when I read some reviews, when a people do metal, it's something like the crazy people, more not ordinary people in this kind of stuff.
I don't think people are crazy to do metal. It's like, we're not crazy. I don't like to think
Yeah,
so. Well,
yeah,
you have to ask some people, but I don't think so. There is this sort of like, there has to be a passion at least, and passionate people are always, if they're very passionate to do something like this, then it's always people will look at you like, okay, what's going on with you? But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're crazy. I just like to think that it's a music of very passionate people who have like fallen in love with the sound of big guitars and the heavy drums and the fast speed and the heaviness, and that's sort of taken you away, and then you want to do that yourself. And in metal, I think, is very good music in the sense that many people who fall in love with it get this sort of urge to start making it themselves, which is very, very, very nice. It's not like, it's sort of more engaging in that sense. It's engaging your creative side, that people have become very like, okay, now I want to do that. I want to start playing guitar and play fast and play hard and play stuff like that. So in that sense, it's not about crazy people. It's more about passionate people who found like, yes, this is my thing.
Okay. So we are very closer to end this interview, Jarkko. And what are the future plans that the band has for this new album? Perhaps a North American tour, perhaps European tour, more videos upcoming, or who knows? Perhaps in the coming future, or in the upcoming future, a Latin American tour. Who knows?
We would love a North American, and we would definitely love a Latin American tour. We'll see what happens. Things are all the time, every year it's bigger and better and stronger. So for instance, there is an European tour coming in November. We're playing with Fintroll and Skalmod. In Europe, it's 39 shows in 39 days. That's gonna be intense. And like that, we're going basically through almost the whole of Europe there. So we're getting that done. There's big things coming, and I'm very sure that at some point or another, maybe next year, we'll be seeing the Americas in one way or another. But we'll see what happens. There's lots of things going on. You never know. But it's a crazy world. Anything could happen.
Yeah. So, Jarkko, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. I really enjoyed talking to you. So, congratulations for this. Congratulations for this last album. It's a great one, as I said. We put on a review with almost a great, perfect score in there. So, perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans and Metalerum followers?
I don't know. It's a crazy world out there. Keep it metal, keep it real. You guys have always in Latin America, there's been a lot from the very beginning. There's been very many passionate fans, and we really appreciate your support throughout all these years. And one day we will get to you. So yeah, keep it metal.